Police officers and first responders wear badges to let their communities know they are here to protect and serve. But it comes at a price. Samantha Horwitz and John Salerno work with police departments across the country to bring valuable recovery, insight resources, and workshops. A Badge of Honor TV brings those professionals to you so we can come together and revitalize communities through a better understanding of what's at stake and what's required for repair. So take a load off and turn up your TV. It's about to get real.
Hey, welcome to A Badge of Honor TV with John and Sam. How you doing, Sam?
Doing great today, John. Happy Monday.
Happy Mental Health Monday. And, today, like all days, man, we have to be blessed by all of our first responders that are out there doing the hard job. And we're sitting comfortable in our respective homes as other firefighters out in California are still trying to get a hold of the blazes that are devastating the residents of California. We have our law enforcement that is battling our ICE. Our ICE is back to work, trying to make our streets safer. So there's a lot going on in the world that we have to bring to light.
Absolutely. And, we just got done with an amazing workshop with a great group of first responders this past Friday. And one of the topics that we talked about was health and the topic of, measuring your stress hormones like cortisol and what tests go into that. We talked about, testosterone and the I'll call it the regular hormones that folks talk about. But it really is all about creating your wellness plan, John. And I know you had a very unique experience today. Can you touch on that just for everybody watching and listening super quick?
Yeah, I'm sure it didn't change anything with his face, but
you're glowing.
I'm glowing. But when we spoke about that on Friday about the cortisol levels and stuff that's not covered in your regular well visit blood test, and doctors aren't going to say, "Hey, you're a first responder. Let's check this." You have to be a little bit more proactive when you go see your physician. Hey, I need these blood results checked because everything plays a role. And today I got to go get a hydrating facial, because stress plays a huge role in how our cells and our skin react. And if we don't properly hydrate, if we don't get the cleansing that we need from our skins, you'll be 29 years old looking like this, and it's, that's something you do not want. But we have to find our time. We have to set aside an hour a month, an hour a week, whatever we can, to just focus on our health, be it mentally, physically, or externally, whatever it is. We have to learn to put ourselves first once in a while. And first responders aren't good at doing that.
No, we're not. We're always answering the call for somebody else. But you mentioned something before we came live tonight about that facial, like they put a that red light mask on you.
Yep. There's two different. Well, I think there's a couple different LED lights, and one is a red LED light that rejuvenates the cells. So any damaged cells within your skin, this LED red light, it helps the healing process.
Yeah, red light therapy is super important. We've got one that you stand in front of here in the house, and it helps. It goes beyond just your joints and muscle recovery from workouts. It really is to treat your whole body. So, possibly it could be something for your department if you have a wellness room to look at. I know a couple of departments that we've spoken to have the red light therapy in there. But you know what?
There's relaxing, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
It was relaxing.
Yep. And there's all kinds of therapy. And when you were talking about this, my first thought was there are so many firefighters out west in California that are going to need almost a relax day when they come back. And like you said, we're not good at asking for it, but just it's a relax, but more a detox day. And whether you're doing your detox sitting on a couch, talking to a therapist, standing in front of a red light, whatever that looks like. Our guest this evening on the show, she is dedicated to the fire service. She's there day and night. She's in California herself. She's been directly affected, her office, by the fires. Let's just bring her on right now. We call her Doc. She's affectionate. So, when we got a Doc on the show, that means she's in the club. That means she's a trusted source. So, Doc Kristen, welcome to A Badge of Honor TV. It's great to have you on.
Well, thank you guys for bringing me on, and I'm excited to get into it today and talk about the good work that the firefighters are doing and different ways we can support them.
Absolutely. Before we dive in, can you tell everybody watching and listening about you?
Yeah, so I'll give you the skinny version because there's a long version. Skinny version is I am a licensed clinical forensic psychologist, and forensic is the umbrella on which police and public safety psychology live. And under that is the umbrella of fire service psychology. So I actually started my work in county jail system. I worked with the Orange County Jail, and then I worked for the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. So I spent a lot of time actually working with inmates and working alongside officers in those duties. And then I left to work for the fire department in LA. I worked there for a couple years, and then I've been in private practice doing contract work with the Superior Court of California. I do some work with the LA Sheriff's Department, and I have different firefighters that I work with across the state, either in-person visits or online. So it's been good. It's been good work. It's been a good journey, and I'm happy to be here today.
And you also started a nonprofit, the Fire Service Psychology Association.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I started that back in 2017 because when I was hired in LA Fire Department, I was looking around and I said, well, who are my colleagues? Like, who do I work with? Who do I train with? How do I get better at serving firefighters? Where's my professional community? And I looked over at LAPD. They had 20 psychologists on staff. I looked over the Sheriff's Department, same thing. And just to give kind of a comparison, there's about 3,500 members of the LA Fire Department. Sheriff's Department had about 10 to 12,000. And so if you just do the math, there ideally would have been closer to 6 maybe psychologists. So anyways, I couldn't find them because they weren't there. And I looked over at LA County Fire Department. There also were no psychologists working there. So I went around the country trying to find my people. I found 2 in Houston, 2 in Austin, and then different contracted clinicians and psychologists around the country. We came together and we started this thing called the Fire Service Psychology Association. And it's the membership is made up of firefighters of all different ranks who are totally into psychology and want to see the discipline evolve. And then it's the psychologists and clinicians who serve that population. And we have a conference every year. We do trainings every year. And we're really trying to bridge the gap between our communities so that we have psychological resources that are tailored to their specific needs.
Kristen, you said that tailored to their specific needs, which your profession is well-rounded between corrections, law enforcement, and firefighters. And what's great about that is each one faces a different challenge. When you look at, and even in the courts, corrections, they get hit with a different stress than the outside law enforcement. Firefighters totally different. What is the main thing that you see that differs all these? Is it just the environment that they're in, or is it like in the fire service, you have your brothers and sisters to decompress with at the kitchen table? A lot of law enforcement and correction officers do not have the ability to commingle with other coworkers during their shift. What do you see that's different?
That's a good question. I also did some work with military, did my dissertation on combat vets out of Camp Pendleton. So I have that experience too. Wow. So I'm thinking about these different groups. I would say the context in which people work obviously has a big influence on how they frame the different things that they're exposed to. So, with military, if you're engaging an enemy, there's an intention meeting an intention. And your job is to neutralize whatever that threat is, right? Same thing with law enforcement. There's a suspect, you're engaging the suspect, there's an intention meeting another intention. With fire has no intention. Fire is chemistry and physics. So the relationship that people have with fire really is based in their own psychology and the team cohesion and our understanding of fire. I think what I find, at least one of the things I find most interesting about the fire service, is how influenced it is by social factors, right? Like politics, economics, technology, philosophy, psychology all play a role on our relationship with fire. I think as a society, Hollywood, absolutely.
Yeah.
As a society, I mean, we'll light a candle for a birthday party. We have gas stoves. We do these we're around fire, but I don't think we really comprehend that potential threat. We kind of put it out of our minds and we leave the fire prevention and the fire suppression to firefighters.
Yeah, we do. And you know what? When we come back from, we got to take a quick break. When we come back, let's dive right in because you are in the thick of it right now, being out in California. So let's talk about that, exactly what you just explained when we come back. Stay tuned, everybody. We'll be right back with I'll call you Doc Wheldon or Doc Kristen. We'll be right back.
Forget Zoom, try Meetin. Meetin is a brand new video meeting service. And not only is Meetin simpler and easier to use and more powerful, Meetin also has the right values. Here at Meetin, we believe in freedom. We believe in privacy. We believe in America. And we are apolitical. Now, to get your free forever version of Meetin, just go to Meetin.com, spelled this way. And then where it says promo code, type in the word special. That's your promo code. Okay? So go to Meetin.com, type in the word special, and you'll get Meetin free forever. I'm Rick Raditz, and I look forward to serving you as a customer of Meetin.
Hey, welcome back to a Badge of Honor podcast, Badge of Honor TV. Sorry, just Freudian slip with John and Sam and Dr. Kristen Wheldon. Hey, Kristen, before we left, we were talking about the different variables in post-traumatic stress between our veteran service and then the breakdown into our first responders where we have corrections, paramedics, fire, and PD, where we're looking at adversaries in a different light. We're looking at fire, not as so much as an adversary, but as something we normalize throughout our daily lives, correct?
Absolutely.
And each one, even though trauma is trauma, right? Everybody feels trauma. The way a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a counselor has to look at it has to individualize it, correct?
Yes. The context in which the trauma comes to be is definitely going to take a role in how you're going to address it. So when we talk about fire being this kind of a macro issue that we normalize, and then we put the responsibility of fire prevention and suppression on the firefighters, I think we don't necessarily understand the demand or the ask that we're really making. I think the fires in LA are a really interesting example of that, because as we're trying to figure out, well, whose fault was it, right? Who could have done something different? Who did or didn't do, or what did they not do? And, there's been multiple, analysis on whose fault it was or how they could have done it different. And I think what it's brought to mind for me is all the different things that play together that make for a fire safe community or an unsafe fire community. And when we talk about the impact on firefighters themselves, we're not just talking about the trauma exposure or the the exposure to a potentially traumatic event, we're also talking about concepts around moral distress and the potential for moral injury. Because if we're putting firefighters in situations where they don't have all the tools and all the resources that they need, that can put a heavy psychological strain on them, potential moral distress. And then for those people who have their identity deeply rooted in their ability to save life and property, and they're not able to do this thing that they feel like they need to do, that can have an impact on their sense of self, their role in the community, and that can lead to a moral injury. So I know we spend a lot of time talking about post-traumatic stress, and like you mentioned, trauma is trauma, but it occurs within a context.
Right.
Right.
And then there's a whole other variable.
Like with the and I wrote it down so I didn't forget, it was the Granite Mountain fire, where, all right, that was a wildfire. 19 firefighters were lost from a sweeping blaze, right? Something that was beyond their control. And then you look at 9/11, where 23 NYPD officers were murdered, and Port Authority and so forth. We have the ability to hate that person, that individual who caused that, right? Firefighters, as though they may dislike fire, the hatred's not there. They can't, like you said, blame. Who am I to put blame on to relieve some of the stress?
Yeah.
And you can't blame the fire. The fire is just a product. It's just a thing.
Has no intention.
Has no intention. Correct.
Not conscious.
Right.
I think one of the big differences that we're seeing, I mean, I have family in California. I certainly have experienced the Santa Ana winds before being out there, is that, these fires occur every year in California. What I see in the coverage that I'm watching is the utter frustration from a fire community that has had their budget slashed. Like, that just made no sense to me. And then on top of that, they're opening the fire hydrants, which, should have water coming out, and there's nothing. So the frustration levels, and, God bless the firefighters out there. They are doing a job. They are being super professionals. But from those of us watching on the outside, we see the cracks clearly. We see who has created those cracks. And so why we say it's hard to be mad at the fire, we can certainly be mad at the people that are preventing the fire service from being effective in their jobs, because it seems like it's on purpose. And if you got firefighters out there that have no water, they're not enough equipment, or it's broken down, or they're losing their own homes.
Yeah.
And their family's homeless now. That, I mean, Doc, are for you clinically, do you think this is going to be like the biggest year for you to get the hands raised and be like, I need help?
So that's an interesting consideration, absolutely, because of the sheer number of people who have been exposed to this particular incident. And that's, the community, the first responders. What we know about trauma, and the two books that I like to refer to on this particular topic, one is Acute Stress. It's written by a guy named Richard Bryant. Acute stress disorder. And there's another book called Combat Stress Injury. And these two books are really helpful in our conceptualization of the psychological impact of trauma. And what we know is that most people who are exposed to a potentially traumatic event, meaning 8 out of 10, are resilient. Most people will somehow find a way to fit in this particular situation into their worldview in a way that doesn't damage them. But there are people who are going to go through this experience and all the variables of this potentially traumatic event, and it will impact them. So our job, I think, from a clinical perspective, is to identify those who are going to need extra support and those we want to trust on their natural trajectory to recovery. And I think that's a really difficult thing for us to get a handle on because of the sheer numbers of what that looks like. There was a system that was developed by the UK Royal Marines as a way of managing trauma within the workforce when they moved away from the CISM model. And what they did was they actually trained the peer support team to do risk assessment. So 72 hours after an exposure to a potentially traumatic incident, they'd sit down with a peer and they'd say, hey, they're looking at risk factors for PTSD, acute stress symptoms. They're looking at blame. Who are you blaming? Are you blaming someone else? Are you blaming yourself? All these things have a different impact psychologically on a person. And then they follow up with them again in 30 days. And in some cases, they follow up with them again in 60 days. And what they're able to do is identify who could not resolve these assumptions, their worldview, whose worldview was shattered by this experience, shattered assumptions. And through that model, they were able to get people into early intervention, which is technically 30 days after an exposure. And then those people who are going through the process, they had the peer support they needed. They had the basic support that they needed: food, shelter, water, resources, things of that nature to help them through natural recovery. And I think if we took a proactive model like that and incorporated it into our response around our fire service, we might be better at identifying cases early and then also not pathologizing people who are going to naturally recover. And we want to support that and respect that. And, people are remarkable in their resilience, and situations like these can really show that to us. And so, yeah.
How about
so John, we got to take our next break, and when we come back, let's dive deeper into this. We'll be right back, everybody. Stay tuned.
Look, when you need to respond to an aggressive situation to protect yourself, your family, or your property, understanding your firearm and legal position are critical. Officers know your skills are only as good as your commitment to training. So know what you're doing. So when you're in a vulnerable situation, we can count on your response. Whether you're a beginner or a licensed gun carrier, Carry in Texas offers basic firearms training, Texas permitless carry courses, license to carry, and basic 2A courses so you can understand the responsibilities, situational awareness, and learn the technical skill required when you carry your firearm. Go to carryintexas.com to find the right course for you. Join me, former United States Secret Service agent Samantha Horwitz, on the range for beginner basics, LTC prep, and range practice. Go to carryintexas.com today. That's carryintexas.com.
Hey, welcome back to A Badge of Honor TV with John and Sam and Dr. K. I'm going to call you Dr. K, live from California. Before we left, we were talking about the wildfires that are in California and how it impacts our first responders and the variables that go into that. And I wanted to bring up before we left, we were talking about, you said acute stress and chronic stress. Yeah. And we saw this in 9/11 with continuous exposure to that one incident. Now the firefighters who are battling these blazes, they're not getting downtime. They're not saying, well, you battle it for 3 days and then you're going to take a little siesta and relax, because you are understaffed and the manpower is not there. Are they doing anything? And plus, not only that, they're fighting the fires. The rest of California still needs rescue. So car accidents still happen, shootings still happen, heart attacks and babies being born. All this stuff combined. Yeah. It is overwhelming for one person or even, anybody to comprehend the magnitude of this.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Is there anything on site that you guys are able to bring, or that, let's back up, John. Let's ask the question, has the fire service, have they requested assistance from, people like yourself or other practitioners to come in and really assist? And if so, has there been any pushback by the powers in control?
Well, I think, you guys bring up a really important point. I think the fact that it's been ongoing, that there's this constant requirement for there to be there, to be doing all these different tasks. There really hasn't been a whole lot of downtime, I think, to really attend to the mental health of the firefighters. I do know that there are different people who have been assigned to do peer support through CAL FIRE. They're bringing out different therapy dogs and things like that have been helpful in reducing some of those cortisol levels and things of that nature. I think what will happen is, as time goes on, that's when you're really going to start seeing, well, what is the mental health response, right? And so I think that it's still new, it's still fresh. Some people have been relieved. They've been able to go home. And then other people are coming in. But I mean, a lot of the frustration has come around when they brought everyone back to work and they didn't even have the resources to, I guess, go out on different engines and things like that, because there weren't enough apparatus for the manpower. So it's been a very, very challenging situation. I don't think anyone could have anticipated this specific situation, because we haven't. It's been unprecedented.
Well, you told us before we came live, your office was smoked out, so you haven't been there, working from home. Again, you have somewhere to go. In some cases, these firefighters, when they get their day off, they're realizing they're going home to nothing, because it's all gone. And it's the compounded stress now that we often talk about in our workshops, is the stress of your own life outside being a first responder, or alongside being a first responder. Now you've got to find a place, if you're, married with a family, what that looks like. Are you now living out of a hotel with your family, balancing that? And I hope people can understand that, this isn't a Democrat or Republican issue. This is a humanity issue. Absolutely. And whether the fire that is near you or destroyed your house was caused by one of the arsonists or whatever it was, because those winds are fierce and it just takes a little spark to blow and catch something. There's going to be a lot of cleanup, and there's going to be a tremendous amount of help and support, both mental health help and just monetary support in general.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, there's things I don't think that we've really touched on with regards to the fire. I mean, the sheriff's department has a huge response out there as well. And a lot of those individuals I also work with in my practice. And it's been very difficult. I mean, they're away from their families for many, many days at a time. It's a different responsibility than the firefighting, but it's also one that the community needs in those particular situations. And then also hazmat. I mean, I don't really see a lot of us talk about that. I mean, if you have these old homes that had asbestos in them, getting burned to the ground. I mean, most of our stuff nowadays is highly concentrated in plastics, right? Yeah. All that stuff in the soil, in the water. I mean, I don't know. I mean, what the response is to that, but that's also a consideration that we need to make as a community and as a fire service when we're engaging with those types of hazardous materials, right?
As the fire service moves on with this, and those guys are out there, and Sam, you brought it up and you started to touch on it. I just want to tip the scales for a little bit. The families, and I know, Doc, you work with the families on a lot of things with the firefighters. Has anybody brought in the families and said, listen, your husband or your spouse is going to come home after battling a blaze for a week. Expect this. Now, now a firefighter who, like you said, Sam, lost his home, his family or her family is battling financial stuff, the home stress. Now here comes the firefighter with the firefighting stress. Man, that's two meteors that can collide and is disastrous. So what I'm asking is the city of LA or Los Angeles or California, taking these families and giving them a debriefing, bringing the family spouses, the children. I haven't seen mommy or daddy in a month, and when they do that, are we causing damage to the families as well? Is this collateral?
It's an interesting question. I definitely think that we live as individuals within the systems of our families and extended families in society. So I definitely think whatever we're doing does have an impact on families. I've had clients come in, and they describe, I've been gone the whole time for the last few weeks. And it's, first session I'm seeing this couple or whatnot. And then the conversation is, well, what are you guys doing to help your relationship to preserve? We're coming to you. And so in the sessions, we're really having to work through, okay, how do we reorganize after this? Right. And what meaning are you making of these things? And then from a practical standpoint, walking people through what some of these steps might be, right? Because stress is the relationship between demands and resources. If you have too many demands and not enough resources, well, you either have to lower your demands or increase the resources. Right. And when people are in that fight or flight mode and they have all of these different responsibilities kind of coming at them all at once, it really is hard to sit and activate your executive functioning skills and work through and talk about and organize. And so it's been, I think, really challenging for the families. The feedback I hear from spouses is, I don't want to say anything. I don't want to say what I need or what I'm feeling or whatever. I don't want to put extra burden on this other person.
Yeah, sure. We hear
saw
that
all. We saw that in New Orleans. In New Orleans, when Katrina came through, a lot of those police officers in the flood lost their homes, right? Yeah. And the demand of the department was so great that they quit their job. They quit and abandoned their job and said, hey, my family's first. Yeah. Is that something we may see, or saying, hey, the department didn't take care of my family, or the department didn't take care of us as a whole as first responders? Let's
take that question when we come back from our next break, because that is a super valid point. We'll be right back, everybody.
Leftovers again? It's time for something we haven't had in a long time. It's time for something right. It's time to make the right choice. OBBM Network TV is always the right choice. Choose right.
Hey, welcome back to A Badge of Honor TV with John and Sam and Dr. K out of California. We're talking about the stresses that is on our firefighters and our law enforcement throughout the state of California. When we have a multi-day or a multi-month job where we're constantly going, it's just like 9/11, where guys responded every single day for 2 years, man, that plays a huge role. It's not like a quick shooting or a car accident. This is compounded trauma each and every day, which we got to handle with kid gloves. And this is where our resources, our politicians, our therapists, our counselors have to all step up and have the back of our first responders and their families, because they're going to be in great need very soon.
Yeah. Are you going to, do you think you'll see, like John said, with Katrina, the cops, the police officers just said, I'm out, here. I don't know what it takes to here's my papers or whatever, but I'm out because the stress was just too much. They realized that their family, without them, they weren't going to be served. Do you foresee possibly the same thing happening?
That's a good question. Yeah. I definitely think that some people do feel like there is a choice that they have to make between their family and between these departments. And I think that departments do need to be conscientious of that, because if people are left to feel like they're expendable and they're replaceable and they're just a body in a seat and not a valuable asset to the department, to the community, and given the opportunity to connect with their families, it puts a strain on the system. And when people have to make a decision between their family and their career, I mean, it's not a decision I think anyone should have to make, but a lot of people do feel that type of pressure. And so I think it's for the leaders of organizations to work with their resources and work with the people in the communities. And like you said, reach out to the families and come up with a system to where they can be both.
Mm-hmm.
See, I would be hoping that somebody from the fire service has reached out to these families. They may have. We don't know. I mean, I don't personally know, but I know if I was battling these blazes, like you said, and you know, they're calling me a hero and they're saying, "Oh, just keep doing your job and keep doing your job," and they forgot about what I have at home, right? I'm telling you, I would probably be like, you know what? I am expendable. I am just a number to you. You cared nothing about my family, my kids, my home. You didn't care about my needs. I may look for another line of profession.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely that potential for sure. I think when I was working in LA, one of the things that I was really passionate about was, they have a family day at the beginning. You talk to people about what some of the variables are of the profession. But I spent some time trying to get these families talking to each other. This is something that used to be more commonplace when people lived in the vicinity that they worked, but in LA it's kind of difficult to do that because of the housing and the expenses and things like that. So people are more spread out around California, even if they're working in this particular area. So I think one of the things that is so important is peer support, and not just the peer of firefighter to firefighter or officer to officer, but family member to family member. So that, if the department doesn't have the resources to engage in a response with consideration for the family as well, because that becomes ancillary system as it goes out. What are systems that can be put in place to protect the psychological health and the family cohesion of those units? And I do think like we should sit down as a society and local levels and things like that, and really think about our modeling of work schedules. And I know this is a huge conversation that's being done throughout the fire service culture, and I don't have the specific answer of which schedule is the best. You guys are gonna have a whole nother show on that, I'm sure. But really, I mean, they've been having recruitment and retention issues, over the last 5 years. And a lot of that, I think, has to do with the fact that people are feeling like they have to choose. Do I choose my work? Do I choose my family? I know this is for female firefighters. That's a big challenge too. I mean, someone had asked, why do we have challenges getting females in the fire service? And this is years ago. And I said, well, if I were looking to become a firefighter, which I'm not, I'm a psychologist, one of the consideration is this work schedule even feasible for me? And as we're working towards creating a workforce that is resilient, we need to be thinking about these types of things. So the work schedule is a huge stressor. I mean, there's a lot of talk about this in the fire service community. And I think as time progresses and we work to have more healthier systems, we need to take those things into consideration.
Absolutely, we do. And you'd think by this time and with this many years dealing with wildfires every year, and I'm dealing with wild dogs here, that we'd have those plans already in place. So we've got to take our last break. and we'll be right back to finish up with Dr. K.
Yeah.
Stay tuned, everybody.
Rise and vibe with your new elevated morning ritual. Meet Rise by Frequence. Frequency charged nutrition. Rise is formulated with a blend of 7 different organic mushrooms, B vitamins, amino acids, and green coffee bean extract. Rise supports brain health, performance, and focus while enhancing mood, mental clarity, and energy. Enjoy the delicious mango lemonade flavor while giving your mind the nutrients it needs. Get charged up with Rise. Fuel your body and mind today.
All right, so you can rise and vibe with me and John. Been talking about this for a while. I take this stuff every morning as a pre-workout. It tastes great. It boosts your energy without having that crazy caffeine, kind of like you get it and then boom, a couple hours later you're dropping. It takes me through an entire day, not only from the performance standpoint, but also the mental clarity, the motivation, and the increased concentration that I have. So super easy way to get your own. And so you can rise and vibe with us. You can go to a badgeofhonorhealth.com. That's a badgeofhonorhealth.com. We got packages put together. Subscribe and save today. Visit a badgeofhonorhealth.com. Now back to the show. So Doc K, you have the nonprofit that you started, the Fire Service Psychology Association, and then you also have, it's a very cool website, On Duty Psych. And how can people, or how would you recommend that people reach out to you? Because like John and I said at the beginning of the show, it's going to come to a critical mass and people are going to need your help.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, you can reach out to me via email, Dr. Wheldon at drwheldon.com, DRWHELDON at drwheldon.com. And then the work through the nonprofit, I am very passionate about, primarily because there's a network of psychologists and other mental health professionals that work specifically in the fire service. And so that network you can access actually through firepsychology.org. And different clinicians become members, firefighters and other fire service personnel join that group. And every year we have a conference. So we talk about best practices in the discipline. We talk about research that's being conducted specifically with fire populations. And it's just like a really cool event where we have people from the psych community and people from the fire community all hanging out in the same room, breaking bread, having really interesting conversations. And yeah, I mean, it's nothing like anything I've been to before. And I'm just really excited to watch it grow and watch that community grow, and to know that I'm part of something like that has been one of the highlights of my, I was going to say of my career, but kind of my life.
That's awesome.
Is there something you see in these seminars, like in a community, right? Hey, we need this stop sign. We've been saying it for years. We need this stop sign. Is there a specific topic that every year you're hearing the same thing, and it's either being dribbly addressed or not addressed at all?
There's a couple different things I'd love to see happen that have not happened. One is psychological autopsies. When I worked in the prison system, I was exposed to this concept. It was fascinating. I show up and I kind of got a front row seat to this particular response that the prison had put together. There was a law that changed the classification of a specific type of inmate. And so they weren't going home anymore. They were going to a hospital. And so within 3 days, 8 of those inmate patients ended up dying by suicide. And so the department's response was they sent in a task force, and the task force was looking at, well, what do we know about these cases? Is there any similarity between them? What are the risk factors? What are the protective factors that left these particular individuals vulnerable? And they were able to find and trail it back to this particular law. And then they were able to identify that this was a critical period that left people vulnerable. And so we learned from those suicides how to change operationally and essentially prevent death, right?
Right.
And so we're able to do that with inmate patients in California. Now we have a database, and this database essentially was translated into a risk assessment tool. So as a psychologist providing intervention in those in that prison, all of those years that we've learned about what are the specific risk factors that leave inmates vulnerable to suicide, we learned from that. And we were able to turn that into a tool and actually decrease the rates of suicide amongst inmates. Now, obviously, the paradigm's different, right? If an inmate dies by suicide, the prison is legally liable, right? Because they've been taken out of society, put in this environment, and there is a legal obligation to provide them dental, medical, and mental health care. We do not do this with the fire service. What we do with the fire service is we have a funeral, we honor them, and then their families can apply for a death benefit. And then that's the extent of it. We don't learn from these cases. We don't identify risk factors, protective factors, have a national database to where we could take that information and essentially use it to change our process, really prevent suicide, but we're not doing that. And so because I was able to see what they did with the inmates, and then I came over into the fire service, I could see these stark contrasts between what services are being offered to different groups. And that's what's really fueled my passion for the firefighters having the best standard of psychological care. You know, I mean, and I've even looked at, well, why were there so many psychologists in LAPD or LA Sheriff's Department? And you look at the history and you go back, psychologists were working with law enforcement in the late 60s, early 70s because of hostage negotiations.
Profiling.
So they saw us as members of the team with a shared mission. And that's how they were first incorporated into police psychology. And then after that, they said, well, what else can this tool do? And that's where you see the birth of police psychology evolve into what it is today. There was no parallel for fire. Right. Fire didn't really start talking about, and I'm making a generalization here, 2016, the Ruderman Foundation comes out with a report that says firefighters are more likely to die by suicide than in a line of duty. Then what do you see happen? Hey, we need to get a handle on this. We need to start working on systems. And then you see peer support boom, which is great. But peer support is one piece of a well-rounded mental health system. Absolutely. And we need to be empowering peer support to also do risk assessment. And this trauma risk management system I'm talking about, it falls under the umbrella of what's called psychological first aid. Psychological first aid is recommended by a lot of major organizations, Army, military organizations, APA, like a lot of these major groups, and I could provide a list later. I don't have it all off the top of my head, but they moved on from CISM to psychological first aid. Fire service hasn't. It's quite fascinating to me. I don't understand.
I don't think most, at least the departments, law enforcement that we've come into, they haven't moved much from the CISM. Peer support, yes, has been a huge add-on, but like you said, the trends have been there, and it's always seems, maybe it's because we're always responding to somebody's worst day. We're in that reaction response mode that we never get in front of something. And it just, like I said, from an outsider, it's frustrating to me to watch what's going on in California. I have family there, to be like, you guys go through this every year. And now you're making it worse, not the people in charge. Yeah. How do you show up for work and you don't have a truck to go ride to go put out the fire? It's absolutely unheard of.
Well, that's not the chief's fault. That wasn't, you can't blame it on the chief.
Yeah.
That's one thing you can't blame her on.
Yeah. Well, that we could go on for a whole nother hour about the I almost said the words you shouldn't say on TV, the crappy leadership, that is going on there. But Doc Kristen, I mean, we're so grateful, first of all, that you were able to be with us, knowing everything that's going on. You're right in the thick of it. We hope you get back to your office soon, but that people can still connect with you online. So it's not like you're prohibited from seeing clients and stuff like that. So if you need to talk to somebody, you need to debrief, whatever it is, get in touch with Doc Kristen and make it happen, because you deserve it. Absolutely. And we just thank you for coming on, for sharing all of this vital, important information. We've got a lot of work to do on the flip side of this, if it ever ends. I mean, I know the last ember will eventually go out, but it just seems
we got rain yesterday.
There you go.
I have been back in my office for a few days, so
all right,
things are better over here.
Good. Well, we'll wish more rain for you guys, so everything can hopefully get back to, well, it's not going to be normal. You guys are going to need a new normal, just because of the level of the acreage and the buildings and everything that are destroyed. But thank you so much for what you do. Yes. Thank you for healing our first responders and being there for our men and women in the fire service.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. And we will be in touch.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
All right. Stay safe. Wow, this was incredible and absolutely vital information. If you are a firefighter, okay, please reach out to Doc Kristen. She is there for you. I'm gonna put up the banner again, firepsychology.org. You can also find her on LinkedIn and connect. She's got emails up there as well. firepsychology.org. Do not be a stranger. You know, from everything you've seen from fighting these fires, because I'm just going to say it, they're a little unique this year. You and your family deserve it. And please don't be afraid to ask for help. There are so many people that want to donate to you, that want to give other time. So we are here. And again, just so much thanks to her for coming on. Speaking of donations, you can donate. The cost, which is not much, is $36 to put a first responder through one of our workshops. We just had one. It was awesome. We had all disciplines represented, all first responders from different departments around the DFW and EMS and the jailers. It was great. Firefighter, yep. And so you can go to a badgeofhonor.org, which is our website, and click the blue donate button and make a difference in the life of a first responder. Part of what we do is we reach out to partner and work with a lot of different organizations, and we are so blessed once again to have been chosen as Carry the Load's nonprofit partner. And you will be finding out more about how you can participate with us in the Dallas Memorial March. We have a phone call, I think, this week coming up, but you'll hear more about that on the TV show as the weeks and months go on all the way through May. So thank you, Carry the Load, very much. And, we talked about peer support tonight. So we've got a very special peer support training coming up in March, on March 7th. How do you sign up? Well, first you have to be part of a peer support team. So you can go to our website, once again, at badgeofhonor.org. There's a pop-up. You can register there, or you can visit our events page. You can see it on the March calendar, and you can register right there to be a part of that class as well. For all of our first responders out there in our communities across the United States, you've got a group of prayer warriors that absolutely are praying for you and so you come home safe to your families every evening. So thank you for keeping our community safe. To our veterans out there, thank you for fighting the good fight so that John and I can do a show like this each week. And for our active duty personnel spread out all over the globe, yes, they are out there. Yes, they are fighting. So don't be fooled. They're out. They are across the globe. We thank you for keeping our shores safe here at home. John, take us home.
You know what? You thanked all our first responders, all our military. I want to thank the families that are standing behind our first responders and our military. You too can reach out. You, as a family member, if you're battling, if your family's battling, or if anybody, your spouse is battling and they don't have it in them to step up, be the stronger person, step up for them. You'll be better for it. So until next week, stay mentally healthy. Peace.
We'll see you next week, everybody. Take care.
A Badge of Honor podcast is produced for the OBBM Network podcast and protected under copyright law. For content permissions, please submit your request to abadgeofhonor.com on the content page. For OBBM Network programming information, please call 214-714-0495 today.